the male culture room. When I first joined a big Japanese company, let's just say a major one, the kind with more than 500 employees in a single branch, I thought the hardest part would be learning the technical stuff. I was wrong. The real challenge was email. See? In this office, everything had to go through formal email. Everything. No chatting, no leaning over the desk to ask a question, no quick phone call. Even if the person sat right next to me, the rule was the same. Write an email. At first, I figured, okay, maybe this is about keeping records. But then I noticed something stranger. My emails wouldn't get replies unless I ended them with a line of apology. Not just a polite, thank you for your time. No, it had to be something like, I'm sorry for my lack of consideration. Please forgive my insufficient confirmation. I regret my shortcomings. If I didn't include one of those phrases, silence. No response. It became a weird ritual. I'd write 2 sentences about the actual work, and then 3 or 4 sentences apologizing for things I didn't even do wrong. Soon, my messages looked like confession letters, long blocks of me blaming myself, with a tiny note at the top about the actual issue. Weeks passed, and my brain started to shift. I couldn't even think about a message without automatically drafting the apology part first. The content became an afterthought. And then, one morning, I got a reply that stopped me cold. It said, "Your sense of responsibility is worthy of recognition. This email will be exhibited in the culture room." I stared at the screen. Culture room. Exhibit? I never found out if they were joking or serious, but part of me thinks my email, pages of self-blame over a tiny scheduling question, is printed out somewhere, framed on a wall, a model example of the perfect apology. The shouting roll. So, at this mid-sized trading company in Tokyo, there's this bizarre thing called the shouting roll. Every morning, before the workday begins, one unlucky employee has to stand up in front of everyone and scream out the company motto. And not just say it, literally yell it like they're leading a pep rally. Originally, they rotated it around the team. Everyone took a turn, so at least you knew you'd get a break. But then upper management decided, actually, it feels more disciplined if the same person does it every day. Guess who they picked this month? The new American hire. So every morning, he's up there, red-faced, yelling at the top of his lungs, "Our company's mission is..." Meanwhile, the rest of the staff stand perfectly still, expressionless, staring straight ahead like mannequins. No clapping, no nodding, nothing. Just him, screaming into a sea of blank faces. And the kicker? Later that same day, he got an email from his boss. "Your voice was too soft. The ending of your sentences lacked force." Imagine being told your tone in a forced chant wasn't good enough. 2 weeks in, something strange started happening. His throat felt tight whenever he tried to talk about anything other than the company motto, like the words wouldn't come out unless they were the scripted lines. At a drinking party after work, one of his coworkers tried to make small talk. Something normal, like asking about his weekend. He opened his mouth, and what came out was, "Our company's principles are..." Yeah, that's when he realized he wasn't just doing the shouting roll anymore. The shouting roll was doing him. The central seat. At this small IT company in Yokohama, about 40 people total, they had a weird tradition. On the first of every month, everyone's desks got shuffled. A full-on seat change day. They said it was random, like drawing lots. At first, I thought it was just one of those quirky office culture things, like team building by forcing you to sit with different people. But after a few months, once I got more familiar with the company's internal systems, I noticed something strange. Every single month, one person always ended up in the exact same spot, dead center of the office. Not near a window, not next to a manager, just perfectly in the middle, like a spotlight was on them. And here's the kicker. Whoever got that seat would, by the end of the month, get promoted, praised, or suddenly recognized in some way. A random seat change somehow turned into a fast track for career advancement. Then came the month when the system randomly picked me. I sat down at that center desk, trying not to read too much into it. For a while, nothing happened. People still worked, chatted, grabbed coffee. Business as usual, but little by little, the atmosphere shifted. At lunch, coworkers stopped casually inviting me to join their table. Emails started arriving with my name written differently. Suddenly, everyone was adding honorifics, like I was someone important. And when I gave feedback or simple suggestions, people reacted as if I had issued actual orders. It wasn't just me noticing it. I caught myself saying things in a sharper tone, expecting people to follow through, and they did. By the end of the month, I couldn't tell anymore whether the seat had changed me or whether everyone else had simply decided I was already different the moment I sat there. The silent meeting. So, at this old school manufacturing company, technically a subsidiary of a bigger firm, they had something called the silent meeting. Every Tuesday morning, like clockwork, the whole department shuffled into a conference room. A projector lit up the screen with slides, bullet points, charts, and then silence. No one spoke. Nobody asked questions. The only thing expected of you was to sit there and nod. That's it. No talking, no debating, not even a raised eyebrow. If your expression was out of sync with everyone else, like if you nodded too late or didn't look serious enough, that was a mark against you. When I first joined, I thought, okay, this must be some kind of training exercise. Maybe a quirky ritual. Like, hey, let's practice being focused and respectful. But then I saw the meeting notes afterward. Every single time, the minutes said the same thing. Unanimous agreement. And sure enough, whatever was on those slides became policy the next week. It wasn't pretend. The nodding was the vote. I tried to laugh it off, but it got weirder the more I thought about it. Because in a normal meeting, people argue, clarify, or at least ask questions. Here, the only sign of life was synchronized head bobbing, like we were part of some strange choir without sound. One day, after a session, I pulled my manager aside and asked, half joking, "Hey, why don't we just talk during these things? Wouldn't that make more sense?" He gave this small, awkward smile and said, "Words create responsibility, and we don't need responsibility here." And suddenly, it all clicked. The silence wasn't just a rule, it was the culture. As long as nobody spoke, nobody could be blamed. All that was left was the nodding, and the record that everyone had agreed. After that, every Tuesday felt heavier. Not because of what was on the slides, but because of everything that wasn't said. The monthly report cycle. When I joined this big logistics group company in Osaka, I thought the hardest part would be learning the operations. Instead, it was the monthly report. At the end of every month, each employee had to submit a getsuho, basically a written report that summed up everything you did. Sounds normal enough, right? Except here, it wasn't just paperwork. It was everything. The rule was brutal. If you turned it in even a second late, you were cut off from all work for the entire next month. You weren't fired, just pushed into this weird support slot where you weren't allowed to talk to anyone or touch real tasks. You just sit there, invisible, like a ghost at your own desk. People kept repeating the same line to me. Reports are proof of existence. Not your results, not your skills, the report itself. So I tried to write the perfect one. Every sentence polished, every detail lined up. But when I handed it in, my manager would return it covered in red ink. The corrections piled up day after day, week after week. Eventually, they weren't even about things I had done. They started telling me to include events I'd never seen, meetings I'd never been in, decisions I didn't remember making. By the time the last month rolled around, my draft didn't even feel like mine. Whole sections described me as if I were someone else entirely. And then I saw it. On the October entry, October, a month that hadn't even happened yet, it read, "Recognized as the initiator of the department's new policy. Scheduled for a commendation." I stared at the words. I had no memory of proposing anything. No memory of being chosen for recognition. And October wasn't here yet. Somewhere between the red ink and the silence of that support slot, my future had already been written for me. All that was left was to live it exactly the way the report said I would.